everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are going to be covering character meet and greets. We've talked a little bit about this when we were talking about like characters you find in the parks that haven't actually been in their IP before.
Right. We talked about in Fast Passes for a little bit too.
We talked about in Fast Passes.
Yep.
You're at Disney and Disney planning, but we've never actually discussed what a character meet and greet truly is.
Right.
And this is something that Disney actually started. It was unique to Disney, and others have attempted, and I will say attempted, to follow in their wake, but have not been able to pull it off quite as well as Disney has.
Yes.
Of course, they've had decades of experience.
Yes.
So, starting to get into it, characters were a big thing when Walt started even imagining the parks.
Right.
I mean, when he decided that he wanted to create Disneyland itself, he was basing it on the fables and the stories and the movies that have already been created.
Right.
And he wanted to bring those characters to life.
Yeah.
Bring Mickey to life, bring Minnie to life, bring Snow White to life, and all the beloved characters. In fact, there's a quote from him that says, "Other places can have thrill rides and bands and trains, only we have characters." And that is a very big part of what it is to go to a Disney park. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine what it would be like to go to Disney and not see anybody?
Anything. Right. And it's funny because I'll be perfectly honest, like I was never like a meet and greet guy. Mm-hmm. I always liked the character breakfasts. Mm-hmm. But I was never a meet and greet guy, but I still can't imagine the concept of like a Disney park without having any of that. It would be weird to me.
Without being able to walk into Magic Kingdom and right there next to the flagpole having like Pluto or Chippendale or somebody.
Right, exactly. That's it would be weird for that not to be there and have that like available interaction and have that. It's just like, it just affects the crowd. It changes the way that everyone handles their experience. It's very interesting.
It pluses it.
It does.
It really does help bring you into the fantasy more.
Yes.
And that's something that Disney has always tried to do, even from the creation of Disneyland. So in 1955, though, when Disneyland first opened, they didn't have a well-established version of this going.
Okay.
In fact, the character costumes were borrowed from the Ice Capades, which was going to be running a production for Disney and touring the country the following year.
So Disney was actually borrowing the character outfits
from Ice Capades.
Funny.
And so
they
were
funny.
They were characters that were not meant to be up close and personal because they were going to be on the ice from far away.
Sure. Stage
so
clothing.
They had huge eye holes and big awkward, pockets where there was just, viewing capability for people who would be on ice skates trying to, not die. Right. And so Disney actually borrowed those costumes in the beginning to first start off. So if you see any of the old video of like the opening day ceremonies or any of the walking arounds that happened, then you're going to see characters that had rather unwell-fitting costumes.
Oh, funny.
But obviously, after that, Disney was not happy with the aesthetic of the Ice Capades, and so they created the Disney Character Department.
Of course they did.
Go figure.
Of course they have a department for just about everything.
Yes, they do. And it really helped develop and refine the costumes, as well as focus on safety for the cast members for a couple different things, which we'll get into here. Now, originally, the characters were free roaming.
Oh.
So they didn't have what we're very familiar with now, where you have a location that you know a character is going to be, you get in line, or you have a fast pass for them and queue up to meet them, you have a couple seconds, and then you move on. They just basically had characters wandering around and would eventually just be getting mauled by people.
Sure.
And, like, overrun, and so they started having, character handlers, those people that would be able to do a little bit more crowd control.
They're kind of like almost half bouncer, half guide.
Yes, they're the
Yeah.
ones that are holding people back. They're organizing the groups of people as they
Right.
come and approach,
Right.
and making sure that the characters are safe, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about, but it's an important part of this.
Right.
The next level evolution of the character outfits, let's just say. And right here I'm talking about the fur characters. So there are two types of characters when you're talking about character meet and greets with Disney. You have the fur characters and you have the face characters.
Okay.
So the fur characters are the ones that have the complete costume. They're the ones that are covered from head to toe. You can't see them. And then the other ones are face characters. They're the ones that you can talk to. Princesses, princes,
Right.
blah, 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 blah,
They
blah. Fairies,
do,
all of
yeah,
that.
Yeah, okay.
You can see their face. But the next level of the fur characters are what they call the big heads. And so there are videos out on YouTube where you can see the evolutions of certain characters, and it's hilarious to watch. But my favorite one is watching Winnie the Pooh evolve, because he went from the big head character, which literally was mostly head with little stick legs.
Aww.
And actually the person that was inside the character outfit, their head was in a little honey pot that sat above Pooh's head. So they saw through the honey pot.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was Pooh's face.
Oh, God.
And the arms were limp at their sides, dead, so they weren't able to, like, hug or embrace or show for pictures or anything. And they literally just stand there and go,
Oh, like these weird dead arms.
yep. And you see video of them hopping around, but like I said, Pooh's my favorite one because it's so awkward, because you can tell that the person's head is in the honey pot
Oh, God.
up above the big bulbous head that is
that.
Pooh Bear. But a lot of characters went through that stylization, especially in the 70s when Disney World first came out.
Okay.
While they were trying to make it a little bit easier for people to see the characters in parades and from far away on stage shows and that sort of thing. The reverse of what was going on before with the Ice Capades, where there were the big holes. Here you could see a lot more of the details, but it was really kittywampus. The rules of behavior were then set in place as far as the characters go.
Okay.
And what those rules of behavior are is how a character is supposed to act, how they're supposed to present, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. The guidelines were set in the 70s around that time.
So, and then the question there is that, like, related to just, like, generically all characters, or, like, specific characters in their rule set, or kind of both?
At that time, there was some general rules, but then they also had some individualization, and the closer we get to more modern times, you find more specifics to each character.
Okay.
Also around that time, to prevent mobs, schedules and locations were set permanently.
Okay.
As well as they started having permanent locations, like houses, for you to meet things. So talking about being able to meet Mickey in the first big building when you walk in.
Okay.
The cinema.
Yes. Yeah.
So that also helped as well, because it was air conditioned in there. They could have a lot more people in line. And one sneaky thing that Disney did, and they do this still to this day, is especially if you are in one of those buildings, they will shoo you over to a different room that will have the same character, but you don't know that, because when they pull you from the line, they put you into a separate room, and then they bring you into the character meet and greet, which allows multiple characters to be meeting at the same time to help get through the lines a little bit faster.
Right. So they can do hidden duplicates, and you never know.
Yes, and that's the same thing with the princesses in the Fantasyland area. The Frozen characters in Norway, that building has it too. And really any interior building where they're going to be sending you off into a separate room, it's a nice way to be able to eat up the line and as well as give characters a little bit more of a break, because it can get really exhausting being the only person being that character for hours at a time.
Right, right.
There's also a private little, well, not private, but like a secret little location in Epcot where characters that you might not see regularly or are going to be coming out for a special event basically test out their interactions.
Oh.
And it is in World Showcase after Canada, but before England. There is the little convention hall that they only bring out for like special occasions, the when they're doing food and wine, and it's the previews and all of that.
Okay.
They'll open that big hall back there, but there's this little walkway, and occasionally you'll find like Jack and Sally before it's
Okay.
Halloween time,
Okay.
to be able to have like these little sneak peeks, or getting people or getting characters used to their role. It's something that they're
see.
not going to really advertise.
So it's kind of a way for them to beta test a character
Yes.
before they're actually going to put them out there for real.
Exactly.
So it's a chance for the actors to kind of get acquainted and get ready to start running. Okay.
It's testing grounds. It's a good first testing ground, because then it's not on a schedule, like I said. It's not the high demand. You're not going to have lines and lines and lines of people, and you're able to really get comfortable with the character that you are playing. So that's a good thing.
Interesting.
Another evolution, just because we were talking a little bit more of the evolution of characters, the characters that we see nowadays are pretty standardized since the 80s.
Yeah.
But the biggest adaptation that I've seen, though they've backed off of it a little bit, is the animated faces. So you see those on stage shows now, but when I had gone to meet Mickey, they had him blinking and he was actually talking. They stopped that recently, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it had to do with technical issues or whatever the situation might have been.
Right.
But they still use it for stage shows, so if you're watching
Phantasmic or one
something
of those.
along those lines, you're
Okay.
going to see Mickey blinking and his
eyes and his little mouth.
Yep,
will
and
do
his mouth
little
is
thing.
moving,
Yeah.
and he is very animated, and that's basically the next step. But as far as visually the shape of the characters go, from that point, from like the 80s on, it's only been slight changes. So
Okay.
color this, change this,
So
attach a tail here instead of it
Right.
swinging behind him.
Basic structure has
Yeah.
basically been maintained. Interesting.
Another interesting thing that I heard is those fur suits can be up to 47 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And they don't have fans in them. That's a misconception. So those characters that you see out there in the summer are sweating. They are just dying in there. But they're doing it because they love it. They're doing it because of the interaction.
Yeah. So here's my question. Do they... Is there what's the policy for hot weather? I mean, do they get to have like access to water? Is there like
Yes.
a time limit? How does that work?
So what they do, and this is part of the contract that Disney has with the characters union, is that the hotter it gets, the more breaks that they get, and they at the very least have the same amount of time for a break as they do for being in front of people. So if it's half an hour in front of people, it's a half an hour
off.
break.
Okay.
If it's 60 minutes, because it's really nice outside, though normally they don't go that high, but then it'd be a 60-minute break.
Okay.
They might switch out to have a different actor come out as that character.
Right, but one actor
But-
can be out only for a certain amount of time, and then they have to be off for the same amount of time.
Yes, to be
Okay.
able to
Okay.
rehydrate, go to the bathroom,
Sure.
cool off, whatever the situation is. And you're going to find those time windows being shorter the hotter it gets.
Okay.
Just because there is no relief whatsoever.
I mean, me in sandals or in breathable sneakers and shorts and a t-shirt was a lot for 10, 15 minutes. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine being a 40-pound fursuit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
47 pounds. And then when you're thinking about, the characters, every single face character that you've seen has done their time in a fur costume.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because that's where they start you off here. They start you off at a fur costume, and then they
If you don't
slowly move you up the ranks. So once you
Yeah.
do your, your time
I served my nickel.
as a fur character, then you're able to possibly, and only possibly, move into face characters. Another thing you will always find is you will never see two of the same characters in the same place. So you will never see two Mickeys in Magic Kingdom.
Right.
You'll never see two, Donalds in Animal Kingdom. They're very, very highly conscious of making sure that you don't see one Mickey here and then one Mickey over there.
Right.
Or another thing is costuming. So you're not going to see Mickey dressed up as, a future man in Adventureland. You're not
Right.
going to see that confusion there.
Right, that's true of all the characters, right? Where
All the
they're very
characters.
conscious about everyone that meets their...
And that's one of the
Their
reasons why they
environment.
came up with the utilidors.
Right.
In Magic Kingdom. Now, backstage at Disneyland, I was told it's a lot like a mall. Back there, super sexy, but they're able to get around through, like, the back doors of a mall, essentially, to get to where they need to go. But with Magic Kingdom, they have the underground tunnels
Right.
called the utilidors to get people to the places where they need to go without having to worry about possibly being seen.
Scene, right. And the utilidors, they've got, like it's like an airport. Like, you've got, like, big, riding things and all sorts of stuff. Because it's basically, and that's the thing that's so interesting about the Magic Kingdom, is it's the second level
Yes.
of the building, which is weird. Like, the whole time you're like thinking you're on the ground floor, but you're actually like a floor up from ground level, which is crazy.
Which allows people to be able to get to where they need to be without having to worry about that cross-contamination, let's just call it.
Right. I'm familiar with that.
Fantasy cross-contamination.
Exactly.
And another thing that you'll find of cast members who, even if they've been a character before, they are not allowed to say what character they are. You'll hear them say, I am a friend of...
I'm a friend of...
Friend of Jasmine, friend of Baloo, friend
Right.
of, anybody. And that's their little small way of being able to say, hey, I'm included, but they can't come outright and say, I played this character. Or
Right.
I am this character.
Right. I know a couple of people that have worked there, and it's funny because when I've talked to them, they've explained to me what that actually meant. But when you see it on like social media and stuff, and you see them like pictures with the characters, you know what that means. It's like, oh, I was Daisy. Oh, I'm like, I see. That's what that means. It's like, I'm friends with Daisy Duck. It means that you've played Daisy.
You've played Daisy.
Yeah.
So let's get into the auditions a little bit. So the auditions take anywhere from 1 to 6 hours for a fur character and up to 2 days for a face character.
Oh, God.
Now, the first thing that they do is they take a look at your height. And if you don't fit the requirements, you are out. No ifs, ands, or buts. So you have everything from 4'11" for Tinkerbell and Alice, all the way up to villains can be up to 6 feet. Okay? So if you're a tall girl, you do have a possibility. Okay? But most princesses and other face characters are going to be between 5'3" to 5'7". You don't want to be too intimidating.
Right, yeah.
And then the other thing is they need to have a slender build. If you have anything other than a slender build, they will kick you out. I was reading the audition process, where they started out with 700 people that day and knocked it down to 150 just off of look.
Wow.
And so you need to have the right complexion. You need to have the right facial structure. You need to have the right body shape. They are so specific about it. And it's because they only have, like, a few costumes for one character that needs to fit all of the actors.
Yeah, right.
All of the cast members need to fit in this one little costume. It's not like they're custom making these for you. And so you need to fit there. And honestly, what made me think about doing this topic... Side tangent.
Okay, all right.
I was looking at beauty products on Amazon, and I saw these pimple patches where you're supposed to take this little, like, patch and put it over top of a zit. And one of the reviews on there was like, I played a Disney princess and we're not allowed to have any acne, and these things are amazing. And I was like, character meet and greets, that would be an interesting topic.
That would be an interesting topic. Wow.
But they are so specific about it. And once you go through that audition, you might have to go through that audition a couple times a year. At the
Oh,
very
wow.
minimum, it's once a year.
Yeah.
And it's to make sure you still fit the guidelines.
Yeah.
But, you could be pulled into required
Wow.
auditions a couple
Yeah.
times a year.
My unnamed cast member that I know that does this, she's friends with Daisy, but I know that she was trying to go be was it a Jawa or an Ewok? I can't remember. At some point, she's like, "I'm gonna go audition to be an Ewok or whatever," and we're all just like, we'll just look over and be like, "Really? Okay." She's like,
Is she tiny
She
enough?
is. She's really, really small.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I don't remember if she got it or not. It was we were gone by the time, but it was pretty funny. We were all standing there in like the Wilderness Lodge little cabins, and she's like, "I'm gonna go and audition to be an Ewok." We're like, have fun. That sounds great.
Yeah, one of our mutual friends that we know, he used to work down there, basically said that any male fur character that you see, like Mickey or Donald or any of those guys, is probably a tiny Asian girl.
Yeah.
Just because they fit the requirements, the height
Yeah.
requirements of the costume.
Yeah. Oh god.
And it made me giggle.
That is hilarious.
But yeah, so then say you actually are approved to be able to do
Yes.
this, then you start character school. And character school can get very involved, very
I bet.
detailed. You have to watch everything that character has done, so you become familiar with their mannerisms, the way that they
Sure,
speak, gestures, and they even have a specific training class on how to do the signatures for each individual
Oh,
character.
sure.
So that way there's continuity throughout the years of the people who come to get a signature from Minnie Mouse.
Right, it's the same Minnie
10
Mouse.
10 years later, they're still getting the same signature from Minnie
Oh my
Mouse.
God.
And so they have to practice and study and practice and study to make them as identical as possible for the characters.
Oh my God.
And that is a lot of dedication. That is a lot of work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And characters, it's not all just fun and games and happy stories. You hear a lot of things about, them meeting the Make-A-Wish children and really making their day and all of that. But then there are some people that take it too far, and I didn't realize exactly how much these characters go through. Like, I have a fact here, and it says 773 injuries were reported from characters in 2005.
Oh my god. Like what? Like
773 injuries. I've heard things
What?
about shoulders being popped out of their socket, people getting punched in the stomach, like Gaston, just to see how tough he is, or people that are hugging too tight, or lifting them up and twisting them.
Oh my god.
And like one account that I read, basically they were a fur character, and they were spun around so hard that they got whiplash from the head of the outfit that they were wearing, like knocking against their skull. And you don't think about it. You think about how, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But some of these people are just, they don't realize they're actual, like,
people in there.
humans inside of there.
They're not just a big teddy bear. There's a fleshy bit in there, and it's just as fragile as you are.
Yeah. So I was blown away by that number.
Wow.
773 in
no
2005. Now they've stopped reporting those, as far as I know. At least not on any of the websites that I was able to
Okay.
find. I'm sure that Disney keeps track.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
be kind to your characters that you
Yes,
meet.
yes.
And in fact, let's get into what's expected when you go into a character meet and greet. So you get the opportunity to wait in line, or you have your fast pass, and then you meet them. Really, these people love to be engaged. They love to be able to talk about the characters because they've done all of this studying and they're super passionate about it, and it just makes their day go by so much faster. So ask questions. Ask things like, if you're talking to Cinderella, what's Gus Gus up to? Or, those tiny little things. And they're able to then take that interaction and make it something magical. Another thing is showing off items that remind you of the characters. So could you imagine bringing a fork to Ariel?
Right.
I mean, those are things that the characters would love to play off.
Because they're all, I mean, these people are all actors. Like, in the end, like, most of the people I know that have done this have all gone in for acting, and they come in, and so a lot of times they kind of don't get to be as expressive, but imagine being able to, like, have a thing and be able to riff on something. Like that's
this is
huge.
all improv. This is all improv.
Right. It's a very specific kind of acting, and it takes a lot of skill.
A lot of work too.
Yeah.
So if you can help them out a little bit, it's going to make it even more magical. Another thing is getting their signature. They love doing signatures. Now, if you are getting a signature from a character, you do need to be able to provide your own writing utensil as well as a place for said signature. And they'll sign anything. They'll sign everything from the standard autograph books. I bought a Disney dictionary book of characters, and they knew exactly what page they were on.
Oh, fun.
And opened it up to that page and signed it. And I would recommend a thicker Sharpie, because if you're talking with the fur characters, it can be a little bit easier for them to hold on to it to do the signature. But I've heard them signing pillowcases and t-shirts.
Breasts. Sorry.
We had them do this t-shirt, though, when we were in Disney together for Kevin's niece.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We had all the princesses sign off on that one.
How many princesses did you
I got like 9 princesses.
Wow, you had a lot. That's right, because I was only really in line with you guys for Frozen.
Yes.
Ironically. Hi, Frozen's back. Hello.
But you saw us interacting with Snow White, which is another thing. When you're interacting, they would love to have their pictures taken. They're going to have the PhotoPass people there, but they are more than happy to have people take pictures with your own cameras, whether it be phone or, the actual camera. Just have it set up before you give it to them. And another thing that I did was I had taken video of the princesses too, and I asked them just to say a quick happy birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
And oh my gosh, the
was it
Snow White that we had was amazing, and it was just such a fun, memorable little video snip, and it just made like the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And they were able to riff on that and just give them something to do, and they will love it. If you just stand there, it's going to be harder for them. They'll still try and engage you.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to admit it, but Eleanor, the Mexican princess, the Spanish princess, whichever one that one is, Eleanor of Avalon. It's a TV show that they did, but it because it wasn't a big one, I wasn't as familiar with the princess, but she was there at the Princess Hall. So when I was there to go visit Cinderella, she was the second princess. And so I really didn't know what to talk with her about, but I just complimented her dress, and she was able to take it from there, but she could kind of tell that I wasn't quite sure what to say. Sure. But it's easier for them to be able to have a really good experience if you give them something to work with.
For sure.
But yeah, definitely.
It's improv. You need your bit to launch onto. You can go forever if you have something to start with, but you have nothing to go off of.
Sink your teeth in.
Yeah.
And also when you're there, you can have those little quips, but also be respectful of the people who are in line. Make sure that you're not rushing the group ahead of you, as well as you're not holding up the group behind you.
Yeah.
The handlers are pretty good at being able to judge timing and everything, but just be aware that not everybody in your 20-person family is going to be able to get a single photo with a character in one interaction.
Right.
So just be respectful of that. Like I said, you can get some fast passes for some of the main characters.
Yep.
Another good time to be able to find like specialty characters are the special events, the after hours events that can go on, like our Not So Scary Halloween party. We were able to see Jack and Sally if we wanted to. We were able to get all 7 of the dwarves together if we wanted to.
Yep.
And there's specific character interactions with other things that go on as well. So if you're looking for a specific character, maybe one of those events will be able to make it easier for you to be able to see them. Another one that you brought up already is like the character meals.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's another good opportunity for them to...
and like I said before, I'm not really a huge character meet and greet kind of person typically, but there's something kind of cool about it, because they do a good job of making it feel very natural when you're in having this like meal, plus you've got these characters that are just wandering around and like having to interact and like do it in like a tasteful way because you're having dinner. Like it's like or a breakfast. It's like a very interesting concept, and I don't know a lot of other places that do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Universal started doing that with some of the Marvel characters down in Universal Studios Orlando, but it's its own character of a meet and greet versus the individuals, just because they're able to interact a little bit longer, and you might get a couple passes of each of the characters depending on how long your dinner or your meal takes. And you do have to be aware that yes, there is a price that's involved in that as well. Normally it's a more expensive meal versus others that are available on property, but you have the guaranteed interactions of specific characters.
Right.
And depending on what characters you're looking for, like if you go to Ohana, you're going to see Stitch. In Lilo, if you go to the Grand Floridian for the 1900, 1800 Avenue Parkway, one of those two, you're going to find the Alice in Wonderland crew. During one meal, you're going to find Mary Poppins in another meal. And so it really depends on where you're going and what you're doing. Like the character meal that we had originally talked about in Epcot
Was the Garden Grill one?
was the Garden Grill, and they do Chip and Dale.
Right.
And so that was another good one as well.
Safari Gear, if I remember correctly.
I thought it was Farming Gear.
Oh, was it Farming Gear? I don't remember. I've actually done that one before.
Yeah, it's Living with the Land, so I'm guessing that it would be farming
or something in that world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But with those, you definitely want to make sure that you have reservations. Those are not able to just be a walk-up dinner.
Right.
I know that there's a new one in Wilderness Lodge that has to do with Snow White, and that one actually has the Queen. As well. It's the first character meet and greet.
With a villain?
With a villain, other than Lady Tremaine occasionally pops up at that 1800 Avenue Parkway with the sisters. But the Evil Queen, one of the actual official villains, like one of the big guys, shows up at that new Wilderness Lodge one, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
A couple other places that you can see characters, you might not be able to interact with them too much, are things like parades. You can see a lot more characters doing their dancing, grooving thing, waving hi to people. Occasionally the walking characters, if you're right up front in a parade, they might come by and give you a high five or something along those lines. And then the dance parties. There are lots of different dance parties that go on throughout all of the parks. And you might get things like when I was waiting for you guys at Space Mountain, I was at Monsters Inc. dance party.
Yeah, you had Sully was up there,
and Mike Wazowski was out there too.
Yep.
And I know that the Incredibles do that as well. And there's a couple other different groups that do it too. But that's another option for you to be able to interact with a character. You can't necessarily stop them and take a picture. But if you happen to be like, hey, click, they're not going to really say anything. So it's another good opportunity for you to be able to interact with characters that you might not be able to line up for, because I don't know of a line that you can see for Mike and Sully.
No, I don't think they have one. Well, no, I can't think of one.
Yeah. And then if you want to get really super expensive, Disney Cruises, they have character interactions there all the time. It's a really good place to be able to take advantage of the character interactions, but because you're not really contending with, as many thousands of people. You still have thousands of people, but
it's like less than 10. It's like 6 to 10,000 people.
So it's a little bit more likely of an opportunity to be able to meet the characters that you want to. But that's a quick rundown of character meet and greets. It's something that Disney really specializes in. Other parks and other areas have tried. There's a horror story out there when Nickelodeon had their original group that was trying to start up, and their characters had like too creepy of smiles, and so whenever anybody was taking pictures, it was like, hey! They didn't have that neutral, happy, but it could be interpreted a lot of different ways depending on the situation.
Right.
And so that's taking some working through for the different groups of people. And like I said, I know that Universal has started with their Marvel characters for at least the... I know they have locations that just pop up with a character that you can go meet, as well as they started their dining packages too.
I have some vague memories of in my time at Universal where there was really impromptu kind of meet and greet stuff. Like you'd get like a minion would just like show up out of nowhere. And you'd
Yep.
think, yay!
Doctor Doom, I've seen. Spider-Man, I've seen. Captain America, which, by the way, our Captain America here is so much better than the one at Universal. And what I mean by that is a cosplayer that we're really good friends with, but that's beside the point. Hi, David, how are you? Like, seriously, we were walking by, and we're like, David's better. But it happens. You know, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's still just the thrill of being able to see these characters that you enjoy come to life in front of you, being able to interact with them and have a little bit of that spark, that magic come into your world.
Yeah. And I remember, and I think I maybe told the story already, but I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
I know that we were at the end of the day at Epcot, and we were coming back from, I think we were at the France Pavilion.
Yes.
And Aurora was getting out of her little, little, what do you call that? A gazebo
it was
thing.
a gazebo.
And
little
so she was done for the night. And so she was kind of walking her way back out to whatever the nearest cast member exit was. Mm-hmm. And she had her handler with her. And this little girl, she must have been like 4.
Yeah,
maybe,
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Came just sprinting away from her parents up to Aurora. And she kneels down and has an entire interaction with her. Just really, really
so
sweet. It was so cute. Just gave her like completely undivided attention, and it was amazing.
Brought her over to the garden too, at the little like fence, and had like a full conversation. Like the part that you see on commercials that doesn't really exist
in the real world. It happened.
Rarely exists, but that happened when we were there.
Yes,
and it was so magical to watch.
It's funny if you watch for it, you will have like those Disney ones that they show on TV. You will have or see one of those when you're there. You have to watch for it. But the one that I had before was the one where I went up over at Southern Doors Mine Train and Wishes was going off at the top. One of those like it's like this is like one of those ads.
It was a commercial.
This is the same thing where she like bends down and is talking to the little girl who just ran up to her. It's very much the same way, and the fact that they do that and that kind of experience happens it's very magical to watch for sure. Yeah.
Even if you're not the person that's it's happening to.
In fact, I prefer it wasn't. I'd rather watch somebody else do it. I think it's really cute. I'm like, this is cute. I'll just stay here and have my lobster roll or whatever it was. I don't remember.
I think we were on creme brulee at
that point.
Yeah.
That's exactly. You're right.
But no,
exactly
that was a beautiful setting. And any person that you hear talk about their experience as characters always talk about how magical it is and how much joy they get out of it and how much they really loved bringing that spark to people's lives.
The magic to people. Yeah. It's definitely the energy you feed off of. As a performer, I don't know that I could do it. Like I'm not the right kind of person for that.
I couldn't be a face performer, that's for sure. Just because some of the stories that I've heard, especially with the Make-A-Wish, where, you know, it's so heartbreaking and everything, they're like, I'm happy I have this mask to hide behind for all my tears.
but if you don't have anything, you're just like, I have to be happy. Yeah.
I'm Snow White, and I'm so happy, even though I just heard you're dying of cancer at 5 years old, but I love you. Oh my god, that would destroy me.
That would be so hard.
That would destroy me.
But yeah, keeping that kind of energy up, especially for the face characters, that would be a very, very hard task. I mean, like, it's one thing for me to, like, you know, come in, and my background is more in like a theater stage performer, and you come in and you get to just, you feel that energy off of the audience, and you get to do it, and then you're done after your 2 hours of being on, and then you don't have to do it anymore. But like, imagine like having to be on for like, you know, a 4-hour, 5-hour shift, and, you know, on and off, and having to just kind of with that really direct interaction. That's gotta be just hard.
Although I will say I wouldn't recommend kissing any of the characters, because I don't know how many times they wipe off the noses, because I've seen so many videos of like Mickey coming up and they give a hug and they go mwah, right on the tip of the nose, and I'm like, oh, how many other people
have done that? It's not a person, that's a costume. Everyone else does.
But
yeah, that's icky.
It's okay.
Maybe Mickey, they have a little wipe.
Could you imagine, like, the handler comes up and just wipes off the nose real quick? Oh, that would be horrible.
That is really funny.
That would ruin the magic.
That would ruin the magic.
And on that note, of wiping Mickey's nose, I think we're going to end there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. This has been WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And I hope you all have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.